Ready. Play.
Maybe zooming in a little bit on Iga Swiatek, lost to Ostapenko. I'm going to say it's difficult to say it was unexpected, but I think a lot of people did think she was finally going to get that win. Nobody counted on Ostapenko basically not giving her the opportunity in that match, basically, is what happened. How are you assessing how her season's going at the minute?
It's a bit tough to say, meaning that, of course, when you talk about Iga Swiatek, the expectations are super, super high. But I still, would give her a couple of big tournament yet, at least, after Indian Wells to really draw judgment, because so far she still was a point away from the Australian Open final. And yeah, of course, Doha feels as a big disappointment because we knew that she has a fantastic record in Doha, but I don't know. For example, last year she was semi-finalist in Dubai and winner in Doha. Maybe this year it's the opposite. So I would say that I still would give her, another month before starting to draw judgment, because so far it's a little bit too early, considering that she reached, a couple of results that don't really allow you to draw judgment. Because if she had lost, earlier, maybe you could have, talked a bit more about the disappointment. So you still get, solid start, meaning that she still reached 2 semifinals out of 2 big tournaments. Of course, the expectations when it comes to her are even higher, but it's still early after 2 semifinals to talk, the season disappointing so far. So I would still wait at least Indian Wells, Dubai Indian Wells, because Indian Wells is another tournament where usually conditions suit her tennis really well. So maybe after the tournament in Indian Wells, we will start talking a little bit more about, how her season is going. Because so far, the results are, let's say, good, but maybe not good enough for her. But still, it's still fine, I would say.
I think I agree with that. Yeah, they're good. You wouldn't expect, you would hope she was holding a trophy at this point, but she's been pretty close to all of them. And interestingly, the last 3 seasons, 22, 23, 24, she's reached 8 semifinals that are 1,000 level or above. So, and that includes Olympics and WTA finals, it includes Grand Slams. She's already got 2 out of 2 so far this year. She's on par with how she did last year. Actually, probably, on par with how she did last year. We haven't had Dubai yet. So, could even be a better start in that respect. Like, she is consistently in the mix and showing that she is the yardstick by which the rest of the tour has got to judge itself by. Like, if you're beating Iga Swiatek, you are probably winning the tournament, or at least playing well enough to do that, in theory anyway. So that's
you could say by the way Ostapenko was reacting also in the match against Iga, it's always playing against her, and trying to beat her is always a huge challenge for everybody, even for players who are 4-0 up against her in the head-to-head. So it's always, when you face her, it's always a big challenge, and you want to show up, because showing up against her is also kind of showing up to the rest of the tour, and saying, okay, I'm here ready to do big moves. Because when you beat Iga, you are ready to make big moves.
Exactly. Yeah. And let's face it, again, I can't think of a player that she's lost to that hasn't impressed, that doesn't have a really good level in them, hasn't had me like in the last sort of 3 years or so. Like, I think probably the only one that may be the most disappointing one might be Yulia Putintseva, if you just base it on ranking and CV and whatnot. And even then, Putintseva is like one of those players that I'm like, how has she not done better in her career? So
Yeah, I get it, and especially where she faced her, with her tennis, with her game, Putintseva, we kind of knew that she could have been a bit uncomfortable for Swiatek, especially when you face Putintseva on the surface you're the least comfortable on. Putintseva can really expose your, let's say, little flows in movement if you're not feeling 100% comfortable on the court. So
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense in that situation. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we're kind of going into this a little bit. I was debating whether or not to ask this question, but I think I will. I think I already know the answer to this based on what you're saying.
Okay.
But given I guess this is like one of those things that always kind of gets folded up in discussion of someone like Iga Swiatek, who, is seen as the best of her generation, top 2 player in the world. Like, Schwarner in the live chat saying highest floor in the WTA. We've said that like she's the benchmark. Does she lose too many matches for a player of her caliber?
Oh, this this is a tough question, meaning that for the way I look tennis, the way I perceive this game, my answer would be no, because for me, losing in tennis is not something extraordinary, and you know. Everybody lose every week, and yes, of course, we expect her to win another title soon for a player of her caliber, but I wouldn't say that she loses too many matches. If you look at her record, especially since 2022, I think that over the course of 3 years, she maintained an 87% of matches won. I would say that this is a data which answers the question. She wins, as many matches as she has to, and of course now it's a bit of time that she doesn't get a title, and so since she is Iga Swiatek, we are expecting her to win another one very soon. But just talking about the numbers of matches she wins, she loses, I would say that she is doing fine.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, and
I
like that
think
was
the record this year is, she lost 2 matches.
3
A United
golf,
Cup,
United Cup. Yeah, golf, United
one.
Cup, Keys Australian Open,
Golf,
Australian
golf,
Open.
golf. Okay, 3 matches, and yeah, but one 11, 12. So I would say that this is not looking bad.
Yeah.
13-3.
Yeah,
Thanks, Warner.
there we go. Yeah, that's a really good win record, and that's
Yeah,
going
I
to get
would
better.
say. For the way I perceive this game, my answer is no. Then again, the title in your hand maybe is a thing, but I would say let's wait, at least Indian Wells before talking about that stance.
I agree with you. I think it depends on what you're comparing to, right? If you're comparing her to the field, the current field, or even to her peers at the very, very top, like Sabalenka and Goff, still really, really good. She's matching them. Like they're very similar to each other in their kind of records. You also like winning just one professional level tennis match is incredibly hard. And it also, you have to kind of bear in mind that, like, as we mentioned, players like Ostapenko and Anisimova, even Keys back in the Australian Open, on their day are unbeatable pretty much by anyone. Like everyone has that level in them on the tour where they will play the best of their life and no one can stop them. It's just how often that happens, and Iga's happens more often than most players. Again, only Sabalenka and Goff really in that category of frequency where that happens. If you're looking historically, Iga loses about as often as other great players of history, like Sanchez Vicaria or a Sharapova or an Enan. It's when you decide to try and put her in the Serena category that you run into problems. And that is not something you should do until someone stopped playing, especially since Iga's still 23.
Yeah, and also I would say that these players who have won, let's say, 20 Grand Slams are untouchable unless you start getting to, 11, 12, then you can start talking about that. But, I think these players, like you mentioned, the Serena category, are too successful to be brought into a conversation of a player who is 23 years old. So, it also depends on a lot of things that still have to happen. For example, Serena Williams did what, 11 Grand Slams in the 30s, 10, 11 Grand Slams. So, she built her legacy also, let's say, running a marathon. If not, you don't get to such big quantity of slams, big titles. So I would say that I don't even like to talk that much about how many slams title a player will win. This is a player who is living her career. He is in, let's say, probably the best part of her career. We don't know what can happen in the future. But yeah, the prediction, talking about her level and her potential as a top player, is incredibly big. Then if she will stop at 7 slams, 10, 15, time will tell. But talking about the level, she has what she needs, I would say, and this is what we are witnessing. Then again, probably we expect her to win a title soon, but let's wait a couple of tournaments.
How much does this Ostapenko head-to-head matter for her legacy? Because I think we'd probably be remiss not to mention that at this point. Like, I think some people might go through, if we don't mention that this episode, it's going to be weird. She's now 0-for-5. I still think, and I think I think others of the time have said that, like, each of those 5 matches were completely different to each other with no real discernible pattern, other than obviously the standard one where, like, a big hitter catches fire on a big surface, but that didn't happen this time. So a quick service. So thoughts on the fact it's now 0-5?
The thing is that it's difficult. They were comparing this head-to-head, for example, and I've read about Federer and Nalbandian. Federer starting 0-5 against Nalbandian and then turning the tables around. But it's totally different because, for example, those two players were players who were consistently in their age reaching later stages of tournaments. And so then there was a first period where Nalbandian had something more than Roger, and so he was winning more of these matches, and then they were still consistently reaching the semifinal, the quarterfinal, and Federer started getting better and turning the head-to-head, and same thing happened, for example, in the Sinner-Medvedev matchup. Here it's tough because Ostapenko doesn't reach the later stages of tournament so often to play Ostapenko to play Swiatek that many times. For example, in the end, this was only their second match since Swiatek had the first long winning streak of her career, and then many matches, that match, for example, Dubai 22, have been very close. For sure, I would say that more than having the head-to-head down, it's the fact that Iga hasn't beaten her. Never, she never did it. That probably stays in her mind a little bit. So even if it's, let's say, 1-6 rather than 0-5, it would probably look different in her head. At least that's kind of my feeling.
Makes sense to me.
But yeah, she seems to be a bit frustrated by the fact that she doesn't feel like the match is on her racket. And it's also fine because a top player usually has the match on her racket. Maybe she's matched by the other players doing well, for example, like Keys at the Australian Open, but it was different. Against Keys at the Australian Open, it was also on Iga's racket. Both had the match on their racket in their way. Here, the frustration, I would guess, comes a lot by not feeling like the match wasn't a racket. But then again, if you get to face Ostapenko in a semifinal of a 1000 event, there's a good chance that Ostapenko is leaving her peak moment. And for a player who already suffers the matchup, then it becomes even more difficult. But yeah, it's a bit tough. It's kind of an anomaly because, how tough of a matchup this can be. It's still a bit weird that Iga never won in 5 matches.
I still think she'll win one at some point.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.